I went back to Kyrma thinking it would be easy. Just a short visit to see my Aunt Nalia, share tea, laugh a little, then leave before old feelings woke up. Her house still smelled of wood smoke and dried flowers, the same way it did when I was a child running barefoot through the yard. We sat across from each other at the small table, speaking like strangers who shared a long past but were afraid to touch it. At first we talked about the heat, the dust, the price of food. Then her voice changed. She said I left when the family needed me most. The words were quiet but sharp. I tried to explain, but everything I said sounded weak in that room. Her eyes filled fast with fire. She stood up and told me to get out. Loud. So loud the whole street must have heard. I walked outside with my face burning and my hands shaking. The sun too bright, the ground too real. I sat on a stone by the road in Nerzy, staring at my phone like it might save me, and sent one soft message I had never planned to send. I waited, cars passed, children laughed somewhere far away. Then sirens came, slow and steady, stopping at her gate. Two officers spoke to her while the neighbors gathered. Their voices were calm. The land, they said, was never hers. It belonged to my late mother. Papers had been found. My aunt's shouting turned into tears right in front of everyone. No one looked at me at first. Then one officer did. I nodded once. I did not smile. I just stood there as the truth filled the street. When I finally walked away, the sky over Kyrma was turning gold, and for the first time in years, my chest felt light, like something heavy had finally been set down. I went back to the town of Zermi thinking I was ready, telling myself I was strong now, that the past had lost its grip. My Aunt Lumacy opened the door with a stiff smile that did not reach her eyes, and we sat across from each other in her quiet house, where the walls still held the sound of old laughter. At first we spoke like careful strangers, slow and polite, touching only small things like heat, dust, and how fast the years had passed. I almost laughed when she poured the tea too full, the way she always used to, and for one soft moment it felt like I was 10 again. Then her voice cracked the air. She said I ran away when everyone needed me. The words hit before I could stand up to them. I tried to explain how sick my mother had been, how scared I was, how I did not know how to fix anything back then. My voice stayed low, but hers rose higher and higher, shaking the room. Her face twisted with anger I did not know how to reach. Then she yelled for me to get out, loud and sharp like a stone breaking glass. The sound carried past the open door into the street, and I saw heads turn outside as if the town itself had heard my shame. I walked out into the bright road of Lorana with my chest tight and my hands shaking, the dust sticking to my shoes as if it did not want me to leave either. People stared and pretended not to. I sat on the low wall near the old mango tree where children once played and stared at my phone through wet eyes. I almost laughed at how weak I must have looked, a grown woman shaking like a lost child. I sent one short message to a number I had kept for years but never used, my finger hovering before I hit send. Time stretched the way it does when your heart is loud in your ears. I counted breaths. I listened to a baby cry somewhere. Then the sound of sirens rolled down the street, slow but heavy. Two officers stopped at my aunt's gate in Moravo, calm and steady as if the air itself did not carry trouble. They spoke to her while neighbors crept closer, pulled in by sound and shock. I stood frozen near the tree, too tired to move, too curious to leave. Their voices stayed low, but her reaction did not. Her anger shattered into panic right in front of everyone. The officers spoke of land papers, of false names, of a home that did not belong to her at all. They said the truth had been quiet for years, buried under lies and fear, and now it had found a voice. I felt my knees weaken as I learned the ground under her feet had been my mother's. All those years of being told I had nothing left came back like a wave breaking open my chest. My aunt's shouting turned into soft begging. The crowd murmured. One officer looked at me and asked if I understood what was happening. I nodded once, slow and small. I did not feel like cheering. I did not feel like crying. I only felt the heavy knot inside me loosen for the first time in a long while. When I finally walked away from that street, the sun was falling low over Zermi, painting everything in soft gold. I laughed once under my breath, not from joy but from release. I felt tired, stunned, and somehow warm at the same time. The words that once broke me had no hold now. I was still standing, and the road ahead felt open in a way it never had before. I stepped out of the house in Cavio like my legs no longer knew me. The door closed behind me with a sound that felt louder than it should have been, and the sun hit my face so hard I had to squint. For a second everything looked too bright, too sharp, like the world had turned up its light just to watch me fall apart. My hands were shaking. My chest felt empty and heavy at the same time. I took one slow step, then another, pretending I knew where I was going even though my mind was stuck inside that room with every word still flying around like broken glass. People were peeking from behind doors and curtains. I could feel their eyes even when I could not see them. The red dirt road of Zimora stretched out in both directions, quiet and wide, like it did not care what had just happened to me. My pride felt crushed under my feet. I tried to lift my head, tried to walk straight, but my body kept leaning like it wanted to sink into the ground and hide. I stood there for a long moment, not moving, just breathing and listening to the soft sounds of the town. A goat cried somewhere. A radio played low behind a wall. Life went on without slowing down for my shaking heart. I replayed every word again and again, each one landing in a new place inside me. I kept wondering how someone who shares your blood can look at you like a stranger, how love can turn cold without warning. I almost laughed at myself for coming back, for thinking the past would greet me kindly this time. I hugged my arms around my body as if I could hold myself together that way. My phone felt heavy in my pocket, but I did not take it out yet. I just stood on that road in Lurami, a grown woman feeling smaller than she had in years. Then a little girl ran past me chasing a tire, laughing like nothing in the world could touch her, and for a moment I felt something soft move inside my chest. I exhaled for the first time without breaking. I sat down slowly on a low stone by the road, letting the dirt stain my skirt, not caring anymore who was watching. The shaking slowly turned into a quiet ache. I looked up at the wide blue sky over Zimora and felt a strange mix of sadness and peace settle in me. I did not know where I would go next. I did not know what I would say to anyone. But I knew I was still breathing. I knew I was still here. And for the first time since I stepped out of that house, that felt like enough to carry me through the next few minutes. I sat on the low step outside the house in Kairlu with my phone resting in my shaking hands, staring at the screen like it was a door I was scared to open. My thumbs felt heavy, slow, like they belonged to someone else. I typed one short message to a number I had not touched in years. The words were simple, not angry, not proud, just plain and true. I almost deleted it twice before I let it go. The second it sent, my heart began to beat so loud I could hear it in my ears. Each minute after that stretched wide and slow, the kind of time that makes you count every breath without meaning to. A fly buzzed past my face. A distant laugh drifted from somewhere down the road. I rocked slightly without knowing I was doing it, my foot tapping the dirt in a soft, nervous rhythm. I kept telling myself to stand up and walk away, to leave this place and never look back, to choose myself this time. But my body stayed still, like it was waiting for something I could not name. The sun moved slowly across the sky over Nalira, turning the dusk gold and then pale again. My mind kept running through every path my life could take after this moment. I imagined myself getting on a bus to Dormy and never telling anyone where I went. I imagined starting over in a town where no one knew my name or my history. I felt that quiet pull to disappear, to be done with all the hurt in one clean step. Then just as I leaned forward to rise, a sound cut through the thick air. Sirens. Distant at first, then closer, steady and sure, rolling through the afternoon like a warning and a promise at the same time. My breath caught in my throat. People began to look up from their chores. A woman froze with a basket on her head. A boy stopped running mid-step. The sound filled the street in Camsey and wrapped around my chest. The car slowed near the house behind me. The sirens faded into a heavy quiet that felt louder than the noise before it. I did not know yet what those 7 long minutes had bought me. I only knew that something had shifted while I sat there shaking, and the road ahead was no longer the same one I had been wishing to escape. The knock came soft at first, almost shy, like it did not want to disturb the heat resting on the street. But everyone heard it in Madeira. 2 officers stood at Aunt Kellis's gate, their uniforms neat, their faces calm like still water. The arguing inside her house stopped at once, as if the air had been cut. I stood near the old well across the road, my heart still wild from everything that had happened minutes before. Kelissa opened the door fast, her face still hot with anger, her eyes sharp and proud like always. For one small moment, she looked powerful again, like nothing could touch her. The officers greeted her with respect and asked simple questions about the land, about papers, about names that did not belong to her. Their voices were steady, not loud, not rude, just clear. I saw the change happen in slow motion. Her shoulders dropped a little, the sharp fire in her eyes flickered. Her mouth opened as if to shout, then closed again. People leaned out of their doorways. A man stopped fixing his bike. A woman paused with water dripping from her hands. The whole street of Dalesea felt like it was holding one long breath. The words fraud and false transfer fell gently from the officers' mouths, but they landed hard on everything we all thought we knew. They spoke of land that had been written in another name long ago, of signatures that did not match, of a case that had slept for years and just now opened its eyes. Kelissa tried to laugh it off at first. The laugh broke in her throat. Her voice grew thin. The strong aunt we all feared and followed stood there shrinking in her doorway as the truth slowly filled the space around her. I felt dizzy watching it happen. This was the same woman who had thrown me out hours before like I meant nothing. Now her hands were shaking the same way mine had shaken on the road. The neighbors whispered. Someone gasped. A child laughed without knowing why. I saw tears rise in her eyes, real ones, not the angry kind. For a second our eyes met across the street, and I felt something old and sad move inside my chest. I did not feel proud. I did not feel healed. I only felt tired and awake at the same time. One officer looked toward me and nodded once, as if asking if I understood what was unfolding right in front of us. I nodded back slowly. The sun slipped lower over Dalesea, lighting the dust into gold. And in that quiet after the knock, with Kellis's confidence falling apart piece by piece and the whole street watching in silence, I felt the heavy story of my past begin to shift its weight, not with noise, not with revenge, but with one calm truth spoken out loud. The officers spoke in calm, even voices as if they were talking about the weather, but the words they carried felt heavy enough to bend the street in Tamesy. They said the land did not belong to Aunt Railney. It never had. It was written in my mother's name long before I ever learned how to read. New papers had been found in a quiet office far away in Noruba, papers that had waited all these years like they knew the right time would come. I stood still near the cracked wall, the world narrowing into that small space between my heart and my ears. I could hear my own breathing. I could hear someone whisper my name behind me. My mother's name floated into the air like a soft song I had not heard since I was a child. For years I was told there was nothing left. No home, no land, no proof that we ever belonged to anything solid. I believed it because I was tired of fighting stories that never changed. Now the truth stood right in front of me, calm and steady, not asking for permission to exist. I felt my knees lock as memory rushed back in small, sharp pieces. My mother laughing while sweeping the yard. My mother counting small coins at night. My mother standing at that same gate with hope in her eyes. Aunt Railney's confidence faded fast when the meaning of it all settled on her shoulders. Her voice wavered as she tried to deny it. She reached for anger like it might save her again, but it slipped through her fingers this time. The neighbors leaned closer. Some looked shocked. Some looked like they had always known. I felt strange watching it all from a few steps away, like I was seeing a story that once belonged to me being told by other mouths. The officers asked if I understood. I nodded without speaking. I did not trust my voice yet. I felt everything at once. The loss I never healed from, the small hope I buried deep so I would not keep breaking, the hurt of being pushed away like I had no claim to my own past. I wanted to cry. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to sit right there on the dirt and let it all spill out. Instead, I just stood there shaking, silent but wide awake. For the first time since my mother passed, no one was telling me I imagined our story. No one was telling me to be quiet about what we lost. The truth was not loud. It did not shout. It simply stood there and stayed. And in that still moment, with the sun sliding low over Thamesy and the air warm on my skin, I felt something inside me unlock. Not all the pain left. It did not vanish like magic. But for the first time in many years, the ground under my feet felt real. It felt like it knew my name. The street in Calwo felt too small for what was happening on it. Aunt Malari's shouting rose and fell like a broken song, loud one second, thin the next, until her voice cracked and folded into something soft and desperate. She reached out with shaking hands, not even sure who she was reaching for anymore. Neighbors whispered behind doors and over low walls, some with wide eyes, some with slow, sad nods. A baby laughed from somewhere inside a house, the sound strange and light against the heavy air. The officers stood steady at the gate, their faces calm, their eyes now turned only toward me. It felt sudden, like a light had shifted and landed right on my chest. One of them asked in a gentle voice if I wished to move forward. The question hung there, quiet but strong. I looked at my aunt, the same woman who had thrown me out earlier like I was nothing, the same woman who had filled my childhood with both comfort and fear. And it hit me slowly and then all at once. She was standing on ground she never owned. The house behind her, the yard, the gate, all of it had never truly been hers. My legs trembled as I understood how fast power can change hands without anyone touching a thing. I remembered being small and sitting on the same dirt as my mother washed clothes nearby, her laughter soft when the soap bubbles flew onto my nose. I remembered running across this yard with bare feet, thinking it would always be home. Then I remembered the day everything changed, how we were told to leave, how my mother held my hand so tight it hurt, how no one explained anything in a way a child could understand. All those years of feeling like I had been pushed out of my own life rushed back into me as I stood there under the hot sun of Calwo. My aunt's voice dropped lower now, almost a whisper, asking me to help her, to forgive her, to speak for her. The neighbors grew quiet. Even the wind seemed to pause. For a moment I saw the tired woman beneath all the fire and pride, and my chest tightened with a sad kind of care. But I also felt the old wound inside me, the one that never closed because it was never named out loud. The officer waited without hurry. No pushing. No rush. Just space for me to choose. I took a slow breath that shook on the way in and steadied on the way out. I did not raise my voice. I did not point or shout. I only said yes in a small, clear way. The word felt strange on my tongue, heavy and freeing at the same time. My aunt covered her face and fell to her knees, her crying soft now, no longer sharp. Some neighbors turned away. Some stepped closer. I stood still, not proud, not broken, just here. The sun slid lower and painted the street gold. Somewhere a woman laughed, the sound warm and careless, like the world reminding us it holds many stories at once. For the first time in a long time, I felt the ground beneath my feet answer back when I shifted my weight. It felt steady. It felt honest. And even with my heart still sore, I knew something had moved that could never go back to how it was before. I did not say much after that. I thanked the officers in a quiet voice that surprised even me, then I stepped back and let the street breathe again. No shouting followed me, no final words, just the soft sound of papers being handled and voices turning low and careful. I felt light in a strange way, like I had set down a heavy bag I did not even know I was still carrying. When I started walking down the long red road of Sorley, the evening sun stretched everything into gold. My shadow moved beside me like an old friend. A group of boys kicked a flat ball in the dust and laughed when it flew the wrong way. One called out a joke to another and they both fell into bright laughter. It brushed against my chest and stayed there. I kept walking with slow steps, feeling the quiet beat of my heart, feeling the wind touch my face like it had known me a long time. With every step, the weight that once bent my shoulders seemed to loosen. I thought I would feel triumph. I thought I would feel fire. But what settled inside me was something softer and stronger than both. Calm, plain and steady. I remembered how hours before I was pushed out like I held no place in that world. Now the truth had walked in without asking me for permission and spoken for me. I did not need loud words anymore. I did not need to prove anything. As I walked past the last row of houses in Sorley, the sky grew wide and deep with soft color. I smiled once to myself, small but real. My feet still hurt. My chest still held old ache. But it also held room now. Room to breathe. Room to hope. And as the night slowly reached for the road ahead of me, I kept walking with a strength that did not need to be seen to be real.